Hey, what's up? I'm Fids. I recently shared my final video in the Street Fighter series, totaling 23 game playthroughs. Yes, 23 different titles, brother. I came in clocked it. On my Ultra Street Fighter 4 playthrough video, there was a comment from a viewer, Ichirayu87. First and foremost, thank you for commenting, bro. I really appreciate it. And I suggested that I would be down to do a ranking video, and he said, please do. So, I'm doing a video. This right here is the thumbnail for every video that I released in the Street Fighter series. Now, they're not in any particular order other than to just make my viewing of it a little bit easier, but you can see I have every single video that I released. Now, I'm going to rank them into 4 categories. You have GOATed, straightforward, my opinion as the best of the best in the series. Classic, it's a game that you can't avoid, you gotta play through it. It's got some flaws, but it's still an amazing game. Fun, maybe there's elements of it that don't necessarily make it the best game, but it's still an enjoyable playthrough. And last is meh, because it's meh. So starting in no particular order, I'm going to go from the very bottom here. We've got Xmen versus Street Fighter. I had an absolute blast playing through this game. It's very, very much an arcade classic. In fact, if I remember correctly, this was the very first this game here specifically, I used to work in a bowling alley like when I was really young, and they had this at the arcade center that they had attached to the bowling alley, and I absolutely loved it. So there's a little bit of nostalgia that's attached to it, but it was a really, really fun game. To me, I'm gonna say, brother, we're gonna push this. I'm gonna say classic. The overdone animations associated to the series really make it like a staple and very noticeable. And if you've played any of them, you'll know like where I'm coming from. Street Fighter versus Tekken. This one was actually, in my opinion, I thought it was going to be way more enjoyable than what it was. The art style is literally like Street Fighter 4. The game itself is not really difficult or intricate, but I think I had higher hopes for it to be somewhere along the lines of either the Marvel series or even like the SNK series, where they are different, but they have a very specific sort of style, and it makes it a little bit more enjoyable and niche. And I just really flat out didn't like overly enjoy it. It was a game I played through, and it was a game that I wasn't like overly, joyed by. Where does this rank in the series? It was fun, but like if I didn't play it, like it wouldn't have made a massive difference in my enjoyability of the series. I'm not gonna lie. It was very meh. It was so, see you later, bro. You can go right there. SVC Chaos. Whoa, bro. This was probably one of the first times that I like really struggled with finishing a game. And the animation style of any of the SNK series, in fact, SNK art style, in my opinion, is absolutely like top tier. But the ability to finish and play through this game, like it nearly broke me, bro. Like it was really difficult. But the animation style was really cool. It's a very fun game. Don't get me wrong, it was just very challenging. It feels unfair to say it was fun because it was challenging, and the feeling of finishing it was like, good, but it was also like it has classic vibes, bro. Like it really just complemented the elements of SNK and Capcom. I'm gonna say it's a classic. Tatsunoko Vs Capcom. I'm not very familiar with the Tatsunoko anime series, like all their manga and stuff like that. I really had no idea on what they were noted for, but this was a fan favorite. A lot of people, when I was reading on forums and I was on Reddit, checking out some details about the game, it was sort of revered in the same way that Marvel was. I dare say it really wasn't as good as what I thought it would be. It definitely has its elements, but it was a very simple and very basic game to play, and was very like typical of the overdone crossover series. I'm going to say that this one was fun. It was definitely a game that I enjoyed playing, but I wouldn't say that it's a classic, just purely because the series didn't overwhelm me. There wasn't any like mad story to it or anything like that. It was fun. It's, you know, it is what it is. Street Fighter the movie, the video game. First and foremost, right? That movie, hot garbage, and the game was pretty much on par. It's like they saw the success of Mortal Kombat and they're like, let us have a crack, bro. I've got an idea. It's like an ugly stepchild to the series. It was, had its difficulty in elements of the game, but it wasn't very, overall, the gameplay and stuff wasn't like super fun if we're thinking in the overall aspects of the series. So I'm going to say this is also a solid meh. Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. This was really similar to the Xmen series. And in fact, the game is like almost identical, but the bosses are slightly different. I will say that it is definitely a classic, bare minimum. I would definitely argue Akuma with rockets for arms, I think it kind of pushes it into the goated category. The overall animation style was definitely like in my nostalgic feelings, like it was way more on par with the type of games that I've enjoyed, but the added elements of some other characters and some other variability, I think it just bumps it up that little bit of a notch. So welcome to the goated tier, bro. Welcome to the goated tier. Congratulations. Marvel vs Capcom. This is Marvel vs Capcom #1 to be specific. Oh man, like that boss was, from memory, like pretty challenging to get through. The game was definitely really fun. It was more fun than some of the other in the series, and some of the other games like in the crossover genre that I sort of grouped together. I definitely would say it has the potential to be goated. Oh, see, it was fun. I think it's just more so the boss. The boss was like, what did they call him? Like, I forget what his name was, man, but he was like a Magneto cross overdone boss. Like it was a very fun game. Look, I'm gonna put it in between at this stage, and I'm gonna come back and reassess. But it was definitely fun, bare minimum. I don't know that it's a classic. I think I need to stew on this a little bit more. Marvel vs Capcom 2. Well, it was enjoyable, but it was definitely not on par with a lot of the others. I think the leveling in the boss is what made it more difficult than what I thought it was going to be. With the Marvel series, I would definitely say that the characters you pick are 90% of the battle, because of the size of their like special powers, and how they collaborate with other fighters. It definitely makes a big difference. I'm going to say that this was fun. It was fun. It wasn't meh, because it was definitely enjoyable. And the challenge of having the different levels in that last boss made it interesting. And it did have some elements of difficulty to it. Capcom vs SNK 2. I'm not going to lie, like I was actually a little bit deflated at the end in playing the story. The gameplay itself was fun, and it had a little bit more of a refined SNK finish to it. I definitely will say that it is enjoyable, but I felt like it just wasn't up to scratch. I don't know if there was anything in the background in the production of the game that ultimately led it to having the appeal that it did, but I feel like the story, like the nuance of the story, specifically like in SVC Chaos, like you verse Geese at the end, right? And then SNK 2, it's like they had a perfect opportunity to pick up from that story and they just didn't do it. And it was kind of a little bit, like thinking about it after I released the video, it was a little bit annoying that they didn't do that. So I'm going to say this is meh. I mean, you can go ahead and play it for yourself. It's definitely like of that PS2 era game style, but it just wasn't, it just wasn't it. Alpha. Oh my god. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, Street Fighter Alpha and Street Fighter Zero is literally the same thing. Depending on what location in the world that you are, you might have grown up with Alpha or Zero. Now, the Alpha series as a collection has a very special place in my heart. And part of it is because on PS2, I had a box set, and it was like one disc, and it had maybe 2 discs. I could be tripping, but it had like all of the Alpha games, and it had Gem Fighter, and I think maybe something else. I could be conflating it, but the Alpha series, like, oh my God, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. Number 1, I would definitely say is like one of my favorites. The style of it is, it's got a special place in my heart. It goes straight to GOATed, like undeniable, man. Goes straight to GOATed. Number 2, Alpha 2. On par as good as 1, but I feel like the game and the characters and stuff like that itself was like a little bit easier, and maybe I've got like a bit more of a jaded view on it. And so it kind of makes me feel like it's a classic. It's definitely a classic. I feel like it's an awesome game, but it's just a little notch below GOATed. Don't agree with me? Whatever, fight me, bro. The next is Alpha 3. I had some concerns about playing. Part of it was because I grew up playing, and in the version that I had was, I believe, the Japanese arcade standard. And what that meant was when you get to the boss and Bison, you die, you're done. That's it. Finished. No redos, you got to start again. And that, to me, overall, it saturated the level of enjoyment that you had in playing it. The overall art style and stuff like that, I would say, is on point in being classic, because the Alpha series is like, the art and everything, the nostalgia is like perfect, right? The boss element, it kind of made it a little bit unenjoyable. When I played through the version that I did end up finishing, I ended up getting a PlayStation version, and it was not the case. It felt like it was a little bit easier. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure like different regions and different areas, when they release games, they have slight variabilities that they have to the finish of the game. Kind of like, it saddens the playthrough. It just wasn't as fun. It's not meh, it's fun. It was fun. The next, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. There was a lot of interest in playing this one because of the fact that, like, well, the first time I played it, I played the story mode, and it was like so like busy and so much was happening. I got to play a couple of different characters, but the overall game is very, very simple, and it goes towards like very childish elements. Don't get me wrong, I'm a giant kid, but it's very simple, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. It was just a little bit oversimplified, and I didn't enjoy it as much. I'm going to say that this is meh. Capcom vs SNK. This one here is actually the inverse of the SNK vs Capcom series. The way that it works is Capcom and SNK had an agreement to release a crossover fighting game. One was going to do it in Capcom style, which is going to be obviously Capcom, and SNK was going to do it in their style. SNK vs Capcom was a lot harder, but Capcom vs SNK was a little bit easier to play through, but it had the elements in crossing over both of them. For me, was a little bit more enjoyable than SVC Chaos, but I think it's because it just had that element of both game styles. When I was a kid, I actually had Fatal Fury. Fatal Fury was like the first game that I had playing through, and my character that I would select, Terry Bogard, bro. But it kind of crossed over on both elements, and to me, it hits on that nostalgia. And you notice a lot of the stuff that I'm saying here is about the nostalgia, the art style and stuff like that, because that to me is what makes the game a little bit more enjoyable. And so I'm going to put this right up the top in GOATed, brother. It's definitely GOATed in my opinion. The EX series, hot garbage. Hot garbage. I do not like it. I will not say any negative things about the actual gameplay itself, because the gameplay itself really wasn't that crazy. In fact, the mechanics of the game was pretty straightforward. The 3D style in that period of time, like, they should have just scrapped it. I don't know why they did it, and how they even got to landing out with 3 games was beyond me. I really didn't like it, and in fact, I played all 3 games in one video because I wanted to get rid of the series. That's the truth, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely a series to go check out the video just to see the art style so you can understand where I'm coming from, but meh. Street Fighter I played Third Strike. So Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3 has a couple different variations. Those variations then change, I think, character elements, a couple of other things. The boss was mad because of the fact that they had this, like, you had to finish in a timeline to get to the end. And you had to do it in this, like, it added an extra element of difficulty that I really thought made the game like really, really fun. I would dare say that this teeters on between goated and classic, but I don't know that it necessarily has the classic elements. The goated elements. It definitely has the classic elements because the art style is like really, really cool. Nah, you know what? It is goated. It is goated because of the play system. The play system is like, everyone knows how good Street Fighter 3 is. And you know what? I agree. I'm goated. I don't know why. I apologize for my second guessing. All right, moving along. Street Fighter 2. This one right here is an absolute bare minimum classic. It is a game that I have so much nostalgia for, and it is absolutely a fun game. To me, it's a classic because I think this is what sparked a lot of people's fascination in fighting games. Obviously, this and Mortal Kombat, but I would dare say that Street Fighter has its like strong fan base, and a lot of people, Street Fighter 2, they know it. Then you know where I'm coming from. The art style, the play, the sound, all those things. It's a classic, bro. It's an absolute classic. Street Fighter 1, it definitely has its clunky elements. I think it's just maybe the games of that era, they're just a little bit broken. And in fact, I played through it twice. Once I did it on a Twitch stream, and I didn't end up finishing it. But then when I was able to map out to using a controller, it was a little bit more enjoyable to play. But it's the beginning, and sometimes the beginning isn't as great. And I dare say that this is a mess. Could you play it for posterity? Yeah, but it wasn't that good. Ultimate Marvel 3. This was fun. It's not a classic. The animation style and stuff like that and the characters and whatnot was really good. But it's just it kind of goes a little bit too deep in the embellishments of the superhero genre, and things become a little bit more OP. Like your supers are massive, pretty straightforward game to play. It was definitely fun, but it's not a classic in mine. Street Fighter 5. Oh my God. This was probably one of the most fun that I had playing through. I dare say that it is an absolute classic. The game itself was enjoyable. The story elements and the playstyle elements, definitely there. It bumps up from some of the previous entries, but it doesn't, to me, end up in the goated category. You gotta play it as a classic, but it's just not goated. It's just not goated. Ultra Street Fighter 4 added the elements. I mentioned in the video that it had like this anime style. It reminded me of the anime Kengan Ashura. It was just because of the ink blot sort of effect. Definitely a fun game, but I wouldn't say that it is. Goated. And I wouldn't say that it was classic. It's definitely fun. You could play it, but you could also skip it. That's kind of my logic. They finally worked out the animation style to get the 3D done right. And they had that cartoony element, but they just didn't overdo it. And so that, to me, is what made it cool. But it just didn't, it's just not classic. I mean, my whole element of this is like classic. I would tell people you have to play it. Right? You have to play it. You got to play through it. If someone was to repeat my journey, they're unavoidably some of my most enjoyable games to play. You got to play it. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Street Fighter 6. Listen, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna explain something. All right. Actually, before I do that, let me come out and let me just adjust where I'm gonna put Marvel vs Capcom. I'm gonna say Marvel vs Capcom in that element of saying that it is enjoyable and you got to play it, and I would recommend it. I'm gonna say classic. It is on par with Xmen vs Street Fighter, but I think that the change in some of the characters and the boss it added a new dynamic. The Marvel vs Capcom 2 series, what separates the two of them is just purely the fact that the story feels like it flows along. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, like it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's just another game in the series. So yeah, it's definitely a classic. Now, Street Fighter 6. If we're to think about some of the things that I've spoken about that helped me rate these games, nostalgia. It's a new game, you can't put it in that category. But the animation style with the supers and the splashes, like pristine. Absolutely pristine. I would also say the simplicity and the ability to change between having a modern setting and a classic setting really, really made the difference. I also will say that having the other game modes really made this game enjoyable. When you think about all these other games, what draws you back? It's the ability to replay the game and finish it with another character. This adds that element, and you definitely can do that, but it also adds the create a character function with the world tour. And that to me is just something that made the series really exciting. I definitely know that they've taken that idea and elements of that from Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat has done some stuff like that in the more recent games. Oh man, it's definitely goated. Like it's definitely goated, bro. Like the gameplay was really, really cool. It was really awesome. The animation style was on point. I would definitely say that it's a game that I would be telling people to play, and I was really looking forward to it. And you know what? I'm glad that I played it last. This right here is my personal list on all the games in the Street Fighter series. If you agree with me or you disagree with me, you reckon I should have put a game somewhere else? Well, you know what to do. Jump in the comments and let me know. I will say as well that this series was an absolute lot of fun to play through. And if you want to know what game series I'm going to be playing next, well, you're going to have to stay tuned on my posts. I will be announcing the winner in the coming weeks. However, you still have your opportunity to have your say, man. So listen, I'm currently putting up the poll about whether or not I'm playing Mortal Kombat or Tekken. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Go ahead in there. Also, if there's a game in the series that you missed, go ahead and check it out. If I rated it meh, you need to check it out and see why I rated it meh. And if I rated it goated, you're making mistakes with your life if you're not checking out that video. On that note, if you enjoyed today's video and you stayed to the end, bro, listen, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Like and subscribe. I'm currently trying to hit 100 subscribers, and I absolutely could do with all your love and support. And listen, until I see you next time, make sure you're looking after yourself. Take care and be safe. All right. Peace.